Is it over yet? Is it over? Is it over? Hello everybody, and welcome to this Engage vlog. I have some pretty hefty news to share with y'all. I have decided at this point to make the move out of Los Angeles. I've been living here for 9 years, having moved out from the East Coast back in 2011, and I had moved out here to continue pursuing my career in education, whether it was teaching humanities or working as a director of educational technology at not one but two different schools. And after last year being one of the greatest teaching experiences that I had ever had, working at Catalyst, which I talked about in another vlog, and then of course, the great sadness of that school closing, of that wonderful experience coming to an end, in the midst of course, a pandemic happening. And, well, let me just put it to you straight, guys. After being in solo quarantine for over 200 days, you start to go a little nuts, For everyone across the country, for everyone across the world, obviously this has been a really difficult time for everyone, not to mention the volatility of the election, too, which I certainly hope everybody has been going out to vote and advocating for your right to vote in any way you possibly can. And I think it's just become that time for me to take another step and move in a new direction. And that new direction I want to take is, as I've said many times recently, but I really do mean it, to really commit myself to growing this show. As I know, Engage has such potential, and I've really only just scratched the surface with producing the kind of program that I believe not only would I enjoy to watch as an educator, but I believe so many educators across the country and the world really would be inspired by it, to learn more about game-based learning and play-based learning of all different varieties. And ideally for students and parents out there to also watch the show and really start pushing the envelope and asking their communities, how come we aren't trying these things? I would love to use these in the classroom too. I would love to check out EduLARPing, or I would love to, use Portal 2 as we recently had on the show in our class, or Catan or whatever, right? Practimime, Transmedia, all the rest of it. There's just such tremendous potential for game-based learning and play-based learning to transform education. Trust me, I have plenty of ideas for future episodes of the show. Right now I'm working on 4 different episodes and interviews and that sort of thing. So there's so much more potential for the show, and I feel like in order to truly grow this show and really give it the 100% or 150% shot that I could give it, I really need to be able to turn my attention solely to this. A good chunk of the reason why I moved out to Los Angeles in my late 20s was because I love Connecticut with all my heart. I grew up there, but there never really felt like a heck of a lot to do in the area, right? So, LA being a bustling city, for which my family actually has a great deal of history with. Los Angeles is an exciting city. There's amazing cuisine out here, amazing art, amazing theater, and interactive theater to boot, and there's really just a tremendous amount to do out here. But in the middle of a pandemic that, let's be real, nobody knows when it's ever going to end, I'm just in my apartment for pretty much all the time, and if I'm going to be doing that, I might as well move back home to Connecticut too, So, this is, look, if you know me personally, I don't, decisions like this, I certainly take, it's not like a snap decision with me. This is something I've been thinking about doing for quite some time, and for sure the pandemic has really heightened the sense of, hey, you know what, maybe it's time for that major life change. I have already been starting to work on the next couple of episodes and the next couple of features for the Patreon. I started to work on a behind-the-scenes look of the very first episode of Engage. I cannot thank people enough on Patreon for your support. The Portal 2 episode was the first one, the first episode, the first video of any kind that I've ever used Patreon for, and it really performed well, and I had a few other people join the Patreon after that. So it's really doing quite well, and I really appreciate the support on that front. And I really hope that my current audience, continues to share the show with all the hashtags I've been putting out there to get it in front of more educators, more parents, more students who might be really interested in this kind of, because really, look, sure, you could say maybe I'm biased as the creator, but really every single person, when I do show them the show, as it grows and gets better and better over time, whenever I do show people the show, they always say to me, I love what you're doing, and I can't believe there's not a thing out there already of this kind, and yeah, I would love to bring X, Y, and Z to school, or try doing this in school. And I'm really excited too. And down the pipeline, I've had many people I've reached out to interview on the show, because back to the very first episode of Engaged, another big goal of the show is I wanted to promote other educators and game designers out there who are really trying to push the envelope in terms of play-based learning and game-based learning. All of that's coming down the pike, and that's what I want to do. I want to do that again. I want to be close to my closest family again, especially during this ridiculous, crazy time that has been 2020, and probably, to be real, 2021, because, there's a lot of speculation, obviously, about when a vaccine might be developed, and it might be developed soon. When's it going to be distributed? Blah, blah, blah. And for me to be, to me, it doesn't make sense anymore for me to be sticking to Los Angeles anymore to try and wait that out. I've already tried waiting it out already at this point for almost 8 months. If even at this point people are still unclear about whether there's any end in sight, it's like, well, I when I play a game, right? Even one of the very first things when learning even how to play the game of chess, there comes a point where if it's time to resign and move on, right? Maybe it's time to do that, and maybe it's time to play a new game, another round, try something different, and you have to know when it's that time. And I've just felt more and more in my heart that this is the time. So I didn't know when I moved out here. I didn't know how long I was going to live out in Los Angeles, what was going to happen. I sure didn't expect that I'd actually be living in the same apartment this entire time, which, depending on who you ask, is maybe an achievement. So I'm so grateful for all the people I've gotten to know out here, both professionally and personally, especially most recently with my colleagues at Catalyst and the Sycamore School in Malibu. When I move, I'm sure going to miss everybody. I'm going to miss all the friends I've made out here. But you know what? It's not like I'm dead, right? I can still play games with y'all on Tabletop Simulator, and perhaps maybe eventually I might start doing that with some Patreon patrons. I don't know. I'm still... Look, I'm at the very nascent stages of working with Patreon, and there might be some cool things down the pike that I might start exploring in that vein too, maybe. I don't know. I just mentioned right here on the spot. Poof, that's a thing that might happen. I don't know. Also, I've also been toying with the idea of doing something on Twitch as well. Don't know yet. There's all kinds of things that I don't know, but I want to explore. And as I've said already, in order to really explore these things, it's time to move. Thank you so much for watching. There's so much more to come. Please share the show, subscribe, and thank you all so much for your support. And I promise you there's so much more to come.